As of 2025, the 5 poorest countries in the world by GDP per capita are 1. South Sudan, $716. Reason: South Sudan has been plagued by ongoing civil conflict since its independence in 2011, which has destroyed infrastructure, displaced millions, and severely disrupted economic activities. The country also relies heavily on oil, but conflict and poor governance have hampered oil production and revenue. Additionally, lack of basic infrastructure, education, and healthcare limits development. Civil war and political instability. Since gaining independence from Sudan in 2011, South Sudan quickly descended into a brutal civil war in 2013. This conflict was fueled by ethnic rivalries, political power struggles, and competition over resources. Despite a peace agreement in 2018, sporadic violence continues, undermining stability. Economic dependency on oil. Oil accounts for about 98% of government revenue and 80% of exports. However, most oil fields are located in contested border areas, and conflict has repeatedly disrupted production and export pipelines. Moreover, oil revenues have been mismanaged or lost to corruption. Infrastructure and social services. South Sudan has extremely poor infrastructure. Only a tiny fraction of the population has access to clean water, electricity, or formal education. This traps most people in subsistence farming and limits economic diversification. Humanitarian crises. Millions are displaced internally or as refugees. Food insecurity and famine-like conditions are widespread. The crisis drains resources and discourages investment. 2. Burundi, $1,015. Reason: Burundi is a very small, landlocked country with limited natural resources. It has experienced decades of ethnic conflict and political instability that have undermined governance and investment. The economy is mainly agricultural, vulnerable to climate shocks like droughts and floods. Poverty is widespread due to low productivity and limited access to education and health services. Historical ethnic conflict. Burundi suffered decades of ethnic violence between Hutu and Tutsi groups, resulting in massacres, civil wars, and genocides. Although there is a relative calm now, deep ethnic divisions and political repression persist, affecting national cohesion. Landlocked and agricultural economy. Burundi's landlocked position increases transportation costs, making trade expensive. Over 90% of the population depends on subsistence agriculture, mostly small-scale farming of coffee and tea for export. Poor soil fertility and recurrent droughts reduce yields. Political repression and corruption. The government under President Nkurunziza was accused of authoritarianism, crackdowns on opposition, and corruption, which deter foreign aid and investment. Political instability has scared off potential investors. Poor social indicators. High rates of malnutrition, low literacy, poor health services, and a rapidly growing population create immense development challenges. 3. Central African Republic, $1,330. Reason: CAF faces chronic instability, armed conflicts, and weak government control over large parts of the country. These issues disrupt economic activities and deter foreign investment. The country has abundant natural resources but suffers from poor infrastructure, corruption, and insecurity that prevent effective resource exploitation. Chronic conflict and fragmented governance. CAR has been a failed state for years, with recurrent coups and violence by various armed groups, some with ethnic or religious motivations. The government's authority is weak outside the capital, making it difficult to maintain law and order or develop infrastructure. A resource curse. Despite rich deposits of diamonds, gold, and uranium, wealth from natural resources rarely benefits the population due to corruption, smuggling, and conflict-driven exploitation. Revenues are siphoned off by militias or corrupt officials. Economic isolation. Poor road networks and being landlocked limit access to markets. Many people rely on subsistence farming or informal economies. The country's instability discourages foreign investment. Humanitarian issues. High displacement rates, food insecurity, and lack of basic health and education services are common, exacerbating poverty. 4. Yemen, $1,675. Reason: Yemen is in the midst of a severe humanitarian and political crisis due to a prolonged civil war starting in 2015. The conflict has devastated the economy, infrastructure, and public services. Blockades and destruction have caused food shortages and health crises, worsening poverty drastically. Yemen's economic dependency on oil has also been disrupted. Ongoing civil war. Yemen's war started in 2015 between the Houthi rebel movement and the internationally recognized government backed by a Saudi-led coalition. The conflict has killed hundreds of thousands and displaced millions, destroying infrastructure and collapsing public institutions. Blockades and economic collapse. Blockades on ports restrict imports of fuel, food, and medicine, worsening humanitarian conditions. The economy has shrunk by over 50%, inflation skyrocketed, and many salaries went unpaid. Fragmented control. Yemen is effectively split between different factions controlling various regions, which complicates governance and delivery of services. Historical poverty and weak economy. Even before the war, Yemen was one of the poorest Arab countries, reliant on dwindling oil revenues and remittances. Agriculture is underdeveloped, and water scarcity is critical. 5. Mozambique, $1,72 Reason Mozambique is rich in natural resources but remains poor due to several factors. Legacy of civil war that ended in 1992, recurring natural disasters like cyclones and floods, and governance challenges including corruption. Although there is economic growth potential from gas discoveries, widespread poverty persists, especially in rural areas lacking infrastructure. These nations face significant challenges, including political instability, conflict, and limited infrastructure, which contributes to their low economic output per person. Notably, 19 of the 20 poorest countries are located in sub-Saharan Africa, with Yemen being the sole exception. Post-Civil War recovery. After a devastating civil war, Mozambique has seen steady growth but remains poor due to destroyed infrastructure and widespread poverty from decades of conflict. Natural disasters. Mozambique faces frequent cyclones, floods, and droughts, which destroy crops, homes, and infrastructure, leading to food insecurity and displacing people. Emerging but uneven economy. Large natural gas reserves promise economic transformation, but development has been slow and benefits uneven. Many rural communities lack access to basic services and remain impoverished. Corruption and governance issues. Corruption scandals and lack of transparency have slowed foreign investment in development projects. Armed insurgencies in the northern province of Ciego Delgado also destabilize the region. Infrastructure deficits, poor road and energy infrastructure, low electrification rates, and limited access to clean water keep much of the population in subsistence living. Thanks for watching. Remember, understanding these challenges is the first step toward making a difference. Together, we can raise awareness and inspire change. Stay curious, stay compassionate, and I'll see you in the next video.